and welcome back to What You Need to Know for Worship Musicians. In this final video, we're talking about ear training. This is the light at the end of the tunnel that you are striving to reach as a musician in general, but especially as a worshiper. Ear training is something that you do not want to skip over. This is something that you want to spend the rest of your life building and developing as a skill, as part of your musical worship offering to the Lord. So we are going to talk about that today with ear training. So imagine if you were able to practice, prepare, and play every single song without chord charts and without any need to memorize chords or chord progressions or melodies or rhythms. There's no memorization involved, and yet you are able to play the song perfectly. That is possible through the skill of ear training. Also, imagine if you could learn new songs, brand new songs that you've never heard before. You can learn new songs faster and learn and recall your parts for those songs more easily, and as a result grow more on your instrument. That is possible through ear training. Imagine if you could hear and identify melodies, harmonies, chords, inversions, voicings, all of this harmonic music theory stuff that we've been talking about so far. Imagine if you can hear and identify all of that and recreate it instantly on your instrument. You know exactly what that chord is, and you know where it is on your instrument, so within a fraction of a second, you can hear that chord, know what it is, and play it on your instrument. Imagine if you could do that. Imagine if you could transpose any song into any key and be able to personalize and express your parts in your unique musical voice. Ear training makes this process a million times easier because you can use things like the solfege and number systems, and you can identify chords and chord progressions as a series of intervals and not just as something that you memorized. On to the topic of rhythm. Imagine if you could hear and identify rhythms, time signatures, beats, subdivisions, syncopations, polyrhythms, and be able to recreate all of this stuff on your instrument. Of course, it's these two things. It's harmony and rhythm happening together, which constitute music. So of course we have to be able to develop ear training for both of them. To hear a chord progression in a time signature, in order to play along with that, you have to be able to identify that chord progression and identify that time signature, and within a couple seconds be able to recreate those on your instrument. That's real practical stuff. Distractions in service arise most often because of some lack of knowledge, skill, and or experience. Once we are sufficient in our abilities in all of these things, in our knowledge, skills, and experience, the mistakes that we're making in the music drop off a cliff. Therefore, the distractions also diminish. So we can have a real positive impact on the service by developing our skills, our musical skills, developing our ear training, and minimizing the distractions that we can potentially cause. You can never prevent yourself from making a mistake, but you can work against the possibility that you will make a mistake. The only difference between the best musicians in the world and the people on our worship team is the amount of time that they have dedicated to minimizing the possibility that they will ever make a mistake. Even professionals make a mistake. Even they can't escape it. But us, as volunteers, as members of a worship band, the same applies to us. The more time we spend dedicating to our knowledge, skills, and gaining experience in our musical skills, the less chance we have of making mistakes and causing distraction in service. That's a big deal. Our skill in our instruments, music theory competence, and our ear training abilities all together build us into more effective servants. I can give an analogy for this. Imagine if your pastor didn't go to seminary, if he didn't pray. Imagine if he didn't read his Bible. He wouldn't be a very good pastor. So as musicians, if we don't spend any time learning harmony, learning rhythm, learning scales and chords and time signatures and note values and all that stuff that we've talked about in this series, if we don't spend time doing that, that would be the same as our pastor not reading the Bible or not praying or not preparing himself every single week to give a sermon. If we do our part, if everybody does their part, but if we do our part as musicians to just know music and to know our instruments, if we do that, the church will grow. Ear training for musicians means that we listen to and recognize musical ideas through hearing alone. It means that you can hear a song, hear the melody of that song, and immediately know what the notes of that melody are within the scale. And you may not know that it's a C or a C sharp or a D flat. You may not know the exact name of the note, but you can identify the solfege, or you can hear the numbers as well. So the number system and the solfege system is a big part of ear training. You can't really develop your ear training very effectively if you don't have the number system and the solfege system. But that is what ear training is. This is a dedicated area of practice for us to develop in our own time and at our own pace. Everybody's going to have their own pace that they go at. Of course, we all have different jobs and different family situations and different amounts of time that we can spend in our practice. But if you have time to be in the worship band, then that means that you have time to practice your instrument. If you are a part of the worship team and if you are working and developing your musical skills 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week, whatever it is, at your own pace, if you are doing that, you will grow. Also, ear training augments, strengthens, and reinforces our skills on our instruments and our music theory knowledge. All of these things with ear training, our instrument skills, and our theory knowledge, all of those things work together. They strengthen each other. The more time you spend with your music theory knowledge, the better your ear training gets. The more time you spend on ear training, the better your skill in your instrument gets. The more time you spend on your instrument, the better your ear training gets. All of these things feed each other. One other thing that I have to mention here is this thing called audiation. It's a different thing than ear training, but it's related to it. Audiation is a skill related to ear training, which is the ability to internally identify musical ideas in our imaginations. Everybody can do this except for people who are completely 100% tone deaf. Think of your favorite song in your head right now and imagine how it goes. Then you have the ability to have audiation. The difference, of course, is that we are applying this audiation skill to things like scales and chords and inversions and rhythm concepts. So you know how to sing in your head your favorite song without hearing it, without it being on the radio, without copying it. You can already do that. Then you can do the same thing for all of the concepts that we have talked about and learned about in this series so far. So the difference between ear training and audiation, I'll just say, is ear training is first hearing musical ideas before recognizing them. Audiation is recognizing musical ideas without hearing them at all. These two skills are acquired over time through various methods, through exercises, practice, and assessments. As with all things, when you're learning something, you have to test yourself in order to grow your ability to recall those things. If you're learning something new at work, you're going to be tested in your ability to know that thing at work because you're going to be asked to perform it as part of your job. And in the band, in the worship band, you are tested through things like rehearsal. You can print out music for 3 of the 4 songs, and for that one that you don't print out the music for, you're testing yourself to see, can I play this song without the music? Ear training and audiation will improve your practice, preparation, and playing abilities, guaranteed, to reduce things like distractions that we're trying to reduce, to make our musical worship time a time of celebration, to help the congregation to feel the energy that we are giving them in the music and have a really powerful worship moment. Ear training is invaluable to us as worship musicians. Our skills have a direct impact on our congregation. Music theory is something like musical grammar, and ear training and audiation are something like musical fluency. Music theory is the framework. You learn what a major scale is, you learn what it sounds like, you play it on your instrument, you can speak the language. You do that over and over and over and over again over years, suddenly you're fluent. And all of the music that we're playing in church is using that language, that musical language. The scales, the chords, the rhythm, that is the stuff of our language that we are trying to become fluent, and we want to be able to speak for the reasons that I've already said. When we hear and recognize a musical idea and identify the theory behind it, we can play music as easily as we can speak our native language. That's the power of ear training. When we're responsible for playing specific roles in the band, music theory knowledge, ear training, and audiation are very helpful, to say the least. We can learn more, we can learn faster, we can learn more effectively through these things here. All of this also leads to a deeper connection between the player and their instrument, more growth as a player, as we have already said before. Eventually, we can start to personalize our parts and make our worship music more authentic to our congregation. I think churches sometimes get jealous of each other. You see this online all the time, especially in the circles where people are talking about gear and what kind of guitar do you have, what kind of piano do you have, what program are you using to get that sound. People are obsessed about that. I think we can be influenced, and we shouldn't stop ourselves from being influenced by what we love, by what we hear, and what we are affected by as musicians, but we shouldn't let that take over. We want our contribution to our church to come from us. We want it to be authentic. We want it to be real. By having an authentic voice, developing your voice, you develop your voice through these things: theory, ear training, audiation, developing your skills as a musician.